put this on the gram eventually. So
Oh my gosh.
those that are listening, this is what Gabby's oh my goshing about.
I love
Please
this so much.
describe what you see for the listeners.
I see your ass.
Oh. Does it look peachy?
I was gonna be like, and a great view, but people won't be able to know if I'm
I
talking
know
about your
a
ass
friend-
or the actual like view of the ocean.
A friend recommended I put the peach emoji on top to make it a little more PG. Or
just even playful. I mean, you can keep it as is. Can I ask how many hearts you get for that photo?
That's the only photo people give me hearts on.
See?
They just damn. It's the first one.
Teach me something about your passions. That's accurate. That's true. That's true to you. Okay. Ooh, what are you up to when no one's watching?
Welcome, guys, to another episode of Consciously Curious, where we deep dive with those that are thriving in their space. On today's episode, we're going to talk about love, relationships, the complexities of life, and whether it's friends, family, or love and dating and all that. We're going to try to navigate our way through it all, the muddy waters, and to help us do that is Gabrielle Valdes. Welcome to the show, Gabby. Your friends call you Gabby?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Victor.
And for those that don't know, her official title, Love and Dating Coach. You can find her at Gabrielle Valdes on Instagram or GabrielleValdes.com. But yeah, so welcome to the show. How did we meet? Oh, big shout out to Veronica. V, thank you so much. We can talk about this later, but we were supposed to meet with the intention of, talking about an episode in the future, and then we actually kind of connected really well. We hit it off, went on a date, and then it was a good date, and then it just there were some things that didn't check off on my end, and it's okay. I'm glad we're still friends.
I honor your non-negotiables.
So I was later on. We'll talk about is it okay to have checklists and non-negotiables and things like that, like boundaries, must-haves. But where I want to start is what's been in your headspace these days. Like what's been occupying your mind as far as dating and relationships and work as a coach.
That's a pretty big question.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like my work and my personal life are kind of just blending. So let's see. I think it kind of feels like the umbrella goal is just to receive. So what I mean by that as an entrepreneur and as a coach is just receiving all of these opportunities that are coming my way, whether it's being a guest on a podcast or asking to speak in an event or host a workshop. It's just really been about receiving a lot of these opportunities and realizing, good things can be easy. Relationships can be easy. And then same with love and dating. I've shaken things up a little bit and have removed myself from the online world, and I'm just meeting people in the wild, again, practicing receiving connections and meeting people organically.
Mm-hmm.
And then also just receiving knowledge and also connections on Instagram too. So I hang out a lot on Instagram. I produce a lot of content.
Mm-hmm.
It's a creative outlet for me, and it's also just receiving feedback from people. So
yeah. What I mean in the dating space, not necessarily your own dating space, but in general, what have you been noticing as a broad overview? What's been the hot topic these days?
In terms of dating, hearing from clients?
What are some common issues that people have been struggling with?
Feeling like they're going to be single forever.
Oh.
And this makes a lot of sense because we've had experience being on the dating apps.
Mm-hmm.
And that isn't, in my opinion, the best environment because we're we're expected to figure out whether or not this person is the one within seconds. We have to make judgment based on their first impressions, whether it's a message or even just their profile. And so we're really speeding up that intimacy, that emotional intimacy process. Like, do you remember back in the day in high school where connections would build over time? Like a crush wouldn't be in full bloom until maybe like weeks or months out. And now we're rushing, we're expediting that process to the point where it's within seconds. And not only do we need to figure out if we're going to meet with them, once we meet them, we have 2 hours to put our best foot forward.
Right.
So there's just a lot of that pressure and that expectation. And then there's also that fear of like the time is ticking, I'm going to be alone. And then that also makes people feel like I need to decide now, so that I've gone on a string of like first dates to the point where like this person is fine. Like I don't need to have that checklist, or I don't need to have my values. I'm just going to settle.
You're settling.
That's why I have a job. Because like people get really disappointed. So I work with a lot of folks who are really disappointed with dating. They feel like there's not a lot of people out there. And a lot of my job is to reassure them that they can have boundaries. They can have values. I'm not really fond of using the checklist, but if you have this like physical checklist, get really clear on why these things matter to you. So if like physical attraction is important to you, like also understand why. Does that mean that this person's taking care of themselves? Does it mean that they love and respect who they are? Just getting really clear. And it's okay to like want physical attraction. That's definitely one of the components of having a long-lasting relationship, but just getting really clear on why you want that, as opposed to just this one-dimensional checklist. It's like having those different characteristics and qualities and then really getting to the root of why is that important to you. And when you know that, you're able to move through the dating world and be more discerning. You're like, okay, this person's not a good fit because of X, Y, and Z. It's not because they're a bad person. They just aren't going to fit into my life. And that's okay. And once you know that, you don't question whether or not that decision is wrong. And then it opens up more possibilities, just like us, where we can be friends. It doesn't have to be this end-all, be-all just because we tried a romantic connection, it didn't work out, and now we had a great conversation about it. It was generative to the point where we both felt respected, and then we can now grow a friendship from it. So it's just like a lot of missed opportunities around, is this person the one or not? And then the relationship just dies. So I feel like there's so much opportunity to develop real relationships with people, whether it's platonic or romantic, but we're not giving it a chance because we're putting so much pressure to figure it all out within seconds.
Yeah. What do you think is the goal or like the cause of longevity for like long-lasting relationships? So I was listening to, are you familiar with Ed Milet?
I'm not.
No, so he had Matthew Hussey, who's been doing his rounds on the podcast. He focuses on the female demographic. And a lot of people say, I want to marry my best friend. I have a lot of best friends. I don't want to marry any of them, right? And so the key that they were kind of pointing out was to cultivate and curate a physical attraction. Yeah. So I don't know if that's what you were gonna go with for a long-lasting relationship, but you know, it's because you're more than just friends. And if you don't cultivate that, then why are you in a intimate relationship if you're not intimate? It doesn't have to be physical, I guess, but like there's got to be something more than just friends.
Well, there's a lot of different things. So emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, that attraction, and then attraction could be both physical and emotional, but then also values, because even if you do have a physical and emotional attraction to this person, you may value things like on the polar opposite ends of the spectrum, right? So like somebody may really value longevity and want to build something, and someone may just in this season of their life just want to connect with somebody, whether that's multiple people, right? So it's like, even though you have that attraction, that like there's just so many different components to be mindful of when you're picking a long-term partner. And then it all starts with you trying to figure out what you truly want. I love this statistic, which has been very helpful for me because I feel like I'm a recovering hopeless romantic. I still identify as a romantic, but I feel like I have like
You have some hope.
I have hope, but there's hope for all of us. But the statistic talks about how like 80 to 90% of people that we meet, even if there is a physical and emotional connection, are not going to be a good fit for us long term.
Oh.
Which is, in a way, probably you hear that and you're like, oh my gosh, like that's giving me anxiety. Or it could also bring you peace and ease. Like you're not going to be for everybody. Everybody's not going to be for you. It doesn't have to work out. And then it just removes that disillusionment. And I feel like I had a lot of disillusionment when I would approach love. Like definitely like, you know, fairy tale princess, like growing up, I was like, I'm going to be picked. It's not going to be hard work. It's going to be easy. And I'm just going to know. And there's just so many things, so many rabbit holes we can go with there about like so instinctual attraction.
Yeah.
And another thing I will say about longevity, it's like another thing about romanticism is like the longer your relationship lasts, like the more success you had. So like the end goal is marriage, which I feel like that's a really great goal to shoot for. It's one path. Like you can have so many different types of relationships and it be just as fruitful and valuable. Like you can have a 3 month long relationship and that's just as valuable as like a lifelong relationship.
Speaking of, I mean, that was my last one. My last one was probably 2 months long. And then at the end of the 2 months, I found out I wasn't attracted to her.
Yeah.
And and you talked about how there's so much pressure in online dating that that person checked off probably 95% of my boxes of whatever. And it took 2 months to realize like, oh my God, I'm not attracted to this girl. And so what I took away from that is to not rush into things, I guess. Just like take your time.
It's hard not to, right? Because we have that like chemical cocktail that like wants to bond us together. We get like a rush of like serotonin, oxytocin that like bonds us together. We get a rush. We get really excited. So that's just human. We're meant to like be attached to each other. We want that connection, that belonging. But things have changed in terms of relationships. Like we're not only in relationship to like procreate, but we're here to live on this earth for decades now. And like being able to like have romance, but then also talk about practical things like how do you view finances? How do you like to organize your home space? Are you a morning person? Are you a night person? Like, and not forcing it, but just like being really curious, not only about like the person's passions, but also like their lifestyle and their values and the choices they make on the day to day to see if they are a good fit for you long term.
Yeah. What is the toughest part of, because you off camera you mentioned that all your clients are remote, but like what's the toughest part about coaching? Does it get lonely? Even if you're having these like daily is it daily interactions?
It's daily interactions. What's interesting is I spent a lot of time, I've definitely flexed my extrovert muscle in the last year. When I first started coaching, I definitely worked more in silo and kind of lone wolfed it, if you will. And I was like, I'm just going to do everything on my own. So I did feel lonely in that regard, even though I was talking to clients pretty regularly and they were all remote as well. In the last 9 months or so, my business has completely shifted to the point where like I'm prioritizing going out and meeting people. So a lot of the time I am like behind a computer, but I'm still, connecting with clients, or I'm on Instagram creating content and I'm still engaging with the community so I don't feel alone. And then a majority of my time is spent teaching workshops or even just going out and going to networking events. The really cool thing about my job is I can go anywhere and people will have things to say about it. Like I can go to a girls' weekend and we're like out in Michigan and everyone wants to talk about love and dating. So it's like, great, let's get into it.
And so you speak at networking events and you host a couple of your own as well. before all this credibility and clout, what was it like establishing yourself as a coach? What does it take to be a coach, right? It's like, what's your background, and can anyone do it? You know, why?
Yeah. It has been quite the journey. And I look back on my career and I'm just like, it all makes sense in retrospect, but in the moment, it feels very anxiety inducing. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And that's also where that lesson of like trusting and receiving comes in. We're like, okay, everything's going to be okay. It's all going to work out. So my background is in communication. So I took that in undergrad. And then I have a master's in behavioral analysis.
Where were you going to take that communications degree? What was the plan initially?
So the plan was to be a teacher. And then I ended up becoming a preschool teacher. So I taught for 2 years, and I just loved how excitable kids were and how like you were able to mold them. You were able to also create a whole experience based on your curriculum in the classroom. And then I wanted to create more inclusive spaces for children with autism, and then that's what pivoted me to becoming a behavioral therapist. So I have my master's in that, and that's just focusing on like why we do the things that we do, how can we acquire skills if we're not typically developed, and creating more opportunities to just gain more self-awareness and cognitive skills. So I did that, kind of like had that climbing the corporate ladder kind of thing, and realized like that wasn't fulfilling, even though the work was. Just kind of felt like just another number.
Okay.
And then I did something pretty risky, which is I quit my job. And I spent the last year just like trying different things. Like I worked at.
Were you still in school, or you graduated?
I was still in school. So I also did school. I went to Arizona State, but it was online.
Okay.
Just like living in the online world.
Okay. For your master's?
For my master's.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I still felt like that was relevant. I love understanding why people do the things that they do, what are the main motivators, and then how, because I understand why we do things on a psychological level, like how can we shift behavior? So that's kind of where the coaching comes into, but also making it more human and empathetic, which is like, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I spent that year just exploring. So it's kind of just like throwing spaghetti on the ceiling to see what would stick.
Yeah.
So I tried working at a tech startup with all women who like incorporated storytelling and gift giving. And then I also worked at like a education nonprofit that brought like programming entrepreneurship to schools here in Chicago, and did like copywriting and just photography, just like a whole year of exploration. And then I landed a gig at this really cool design company in Chicago as a producer and project manager, where I was able to have my hand in all these different projects with companies that were really doing good in the world. And I loved that so much. Like I really loved like the client-facing work and getting really curious about how the studio could serve them. And that just ignited me to just like continue wanting to develop relationships and be curious about people. And I was like, I really want to do this more in a personal way as opposed to like on a project level. And so from there, I hit a point in my career where I was like, okay, I have support from the team. This is like work that I do enjoy, but I still feel like something's missing. So it's kind of like that internal dialogue of like, things are great. I love my job. At the same time, like it just doesn't feel like the right fit, which is really interesting because now I'm reflecting on this, and that's kind of how like relationships and dating is, right? Where you're like in a long-term relationship and you're like, things are fine, but it still doesn't feel good. I'm in this 3-year-long relationship and it just doesn't feel right. So I had that moment, and then I was had the decision to make whether I was going to go back to school and be a therapist, or just go and be like or start life coaching, but then go through like a life coaching certification program. When I did that, it was life changing, and they were more about like experiential learning. So like right off the bat, I was already coaching people in the community in our cohort. Learned a lot of the foundational coaching
That's how you
skills.
get practice, is like coaching each other?
Coaching each other, which I really like that, how it's different from at least my experience in traditional education where it's always been theoretical. Like I'm just going to like analyze and write papers and about like what I'm learning and my insights. But
It's not practical.
yeah, just I'm more of an experiential person. So this program was the best fit for me. So learning about the craft of coaching, but then also getting business skills and mentorship, and then like social media and marketing, like all of these different skills. And I was like, this is exactly what I do. And I think at that point I realized I wanted to be an entrepreneur and be in charge of how I was going to craft my day and the clients that I wanted to serve. So I felt more called to coaching. And even the coaching journey has been kind of like it ebbs and flows. Like I started off as a career coach and helping. You're like, oh,
It's like, well, I don't know if that's what I want. I don't know. It's like, it's so,
Yeah.
I don't have a clear path of where I'm going to go, but
which I think is so fitting because I was kind of like that voice that like was letting clients know that your career doesn't have to be linear. Like I know that we're all kind of given this template of like, this is what success looks like. Here's the roadmap, go. And I was helping clients being like, okay, these are the things that this is just one option. So like, what do you actually want? So we would work together for like 3 to 6 months to figure out what you valued, why, and then how to get there. So that was really fulfilling. And then at that point, I realized like niching down was going to be even more important because a lot of people become life coaches and there's no...
I was going to ask, like,
Yeah.
so, but you started as a career coach, not as a generic like life coach.
It was life coach with the focus on, career. So
Okay.
I identified as a life coach.
Okay. And what made you pivot? Was it hard to find clients, or you didn't like it, or?
It was interesting. It wasn't hard to find clients, and I did like it. Again, still felt like something was a little off. And I've always just been obsessed with relationships. I feel like I've been researching relationships as a hobby
Yeah.
for like over 10 years. Like just reading independently and journaling and understanding how I showed up in relationship. Like I even like look back in my old journals from like 2013. It's just like all the things that I'm already creating content on now, which is so weird because I didn't
Still
even
relevant.
realize that I had that wisdom back then. But it's been a lot of just like personal heartache. And then also the desire to figure things out. Like I've been so hungry to figure out how to do relationships right that I've researched communication, like nonviolent communication, how to have like constructive and generative conversations in a safe, emotionally safe way. But then also pairing that with behavioral psychology and then making it human by being a life coach. So in retrospect, it all makes sense, but it's definitely not something that I can like put in a box and tie it up in a bow. Like I never knew that I would be at this point, and I don't regret my journey at all. It's definitely made me who I am. And now I just adore the fact that I'm a love and dating coach. I'm like, oh, it all makes sense. And I've been committed to it, and this feels right. So this is an interesting thing to look back and be like, there are these things in my life that felt good or okay, but they just weren't the best fit. And having that contrast to where I'm at now, I'm like, oh no, this is it. This is it. So it's like really cool to see that there is evidence that we can have the things that we want, and things can be easy, and things can just flow to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like getting your first client as when you transitioned to the love and dating world? Was it hard getting that first client?
Actually, no.
Where did they come from?
I met them at a co-working space. And it's so interesting because a lot of business coaches, I mean, they have a whole strategy on how to funnel people in and like meet them. And honestly, that never felt good to me. I'm not saying that doesn't work. But that just never felt good to me. I've never been one that's like, I need to invest in sales. I need to enroll people. And I put that hat on, and it didn't feel good to me. And I also did coaching work around them. Like, well, maybe I'm apprehensive around putting myself out there and like selling myself. doesn't feel good because I maybe don't feel like I'm worthy of like receiving money. I don't think that that's true, because like I don't want to ever make somebody feel like they're not in choice. So I just go out into the world and just say like, I really love what I do. I'm super passionate about it. And I ask people about their experiences, and I'm really curious about them. And then they actually ask how they can work with me. So it's a different way of doing business. It's a lot of trust, and not a lot of forcing, but that's the way that I've been doing business, and it's been working for me.
Yeah. Did you have to do something on the side, or did you have enough clients in the beginning to sustain life?
That's a really good question. So I have a lot of freelance and part-time gigs. So that's like another thing behind the scenes of being an entrepreneur. Sure, it looks, if you go to my website,
Like that's all we see, right?
all you see is like, oh, she's like a full-time coach. Like she's made it. And I'm like, yeah, I've made it, but I'm also doing like 4 or 5 other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what other skills have you been cultivating this whole time? You mentioned copywriting before, but what other skills have you been doing for, the 4 or 5 side hustles?
Yeah, so social media, and I've gotten so good at it because of my personal brand. So I do consulting, and I also do content creation for a coaching company actually here in Chicago. And then I also do behavioral therapy on the side. So it's
like a one-on-one?
One-on-ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's like my part-time gig, and my freelancing is like a lot of like consulting around social media. And then coaching. So it's cool that I get to do the one-on-one coaching, but I also just launched a group coaching program, so trying my hand in that. And then I also get paid for like workshops and speaking events, so that's fun.
Those are paid. Those are paid gigs?
Paid. I know, right? I'm receiving that too. I'm like, I just reflected on that this month. I was like, wow, I'm getting paid to speak.
So they're reaching out to you?
Again, yeah, reaching out to me, or I'm getting connected to them from other people.
Wow. What do you think is the bedrock of all this success? Is it putting yourself out there in networking spaces? Is it creating credibility on social media? What if Instagram didn't exist? Right? So it does, but like, so what do you think has been like, what was that pivot or the tipping point when you started receiving these things? Like, you put in all this work, but like, where do you think the majority of the success came from?
I think it's from doing the introspective internal work. So just really figuring out who you are, identifying what are the things holding you back, accepting those parts of yourself, loving yourself even more. And I think what comes from that is just like being your authentic, messy, but conscious self.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like because of that, because I'm able to like be okay making mistakes, or also realizing that I have knowledge to share and owning that and just putting that into the world, I feel like energetically people are like, okay, like she's genuine, and people really want that connection. So despite or regardless of like the platform, so I can be in person with somebody and also just being online, if I feel like I'm myself, people can pick up on that. That's what I believe. Mm-hmm.
Little slight transition. So I love how you said like just being in tune with yourself. I was gonna ask eventually, what's it like dating a dating coach? So what would you have to say about that?
Wait, can I ask you that question?
Oh, fine.
Ooh, what were your impressions?
Well, to me, it was refreshing to be, or just to, I don't know a lot of girls that are as self-aware about their internal dialogue as you were. But from an outsider's perspective, I think they would be fearful of how analytical a dating coach can be while dating them. But I didn't feel any judgment while we were talking. It was a lot of listening. But when you were talking, you were very in tune with who you are and what you're about. And that's very refreshing to hear that.
Thanks, Victor. You're not going to say the bad things while we're on camera.
I honestly didn't have any bad things.
I get that a lot though. You're not alone in that. That it is intimidating, which is interesting. So maybe it acts as a filter. I don't know. Because if you really want, and I feel like you wanted to get to know me behind my title, but some folks that deteriorates that, is that the right word? Deters them from wanting to date me.
Yeah.
Or people. So when I did have a dating app, I was like, I'm gonna experiment with this and put love and dating coach on my profile. When I was actually dating seriously on the apps, I just put life coach, and then I would tell people on the first date. But I wanted to see what would happen if I put love and dating coach on my profile. And then of course the people are like, I need you in my life. Like, give me all the advice. And I was like, okay, no, I can't do this. Cause when I'm dating, I'm actually dating. Like, I'm taking that seriously. I'm not just
You're not teaching or
I'm
coaching.
not teaching or coaching. And I get that. So you probably, as someone who's
So you want someone just as self-aware?
So interesting. I'm learning so much about this.
I've told you this before. I want someone who is not looking for their other half, but another whole.
Can you elaborate what you mean?
Yeah, you know, a lot of people like using the phrase like, "Oh, you're my better half," you know, and like two halves make a whole. But I don't want someone who, and that we can talk into like codependency, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I want someone who like knows who they are, what they're about, and is just sharing themselves with another person, but is not dependent on what that other person is giving to be whole.
So yeah, interdependence, which is something that I'm working on too, because I was in a lot of like codependent relationships, which I feel like that's how I've been able to stand alone as myself, to like be my own like supportive structure. Like I feel like self-love is like the thing that really like I teach a lot with coaching clients. That's like the message. And it's hard though, because I feel like we've been taught to depend on other people to the point where it's that person defines who we are. They're an extension of us. And when we think about like interdependence, it's I can stand on my own, but I'm choosing to be in this relationship. So there's still like a need, like there's still a need to like want to be emotionally and physically intimate with another human. That's just like a human thing, as opposed to like being independent, which is like an island. Like, I don't need anybody. I don't want anybody. So it's kind of like that happy medium of like, when I'm in a relationship, I'm choosing a partner, but I also don't need this person to make me feel complete.
But like not getting lost in the relationship to, you know, God forbid if the relationship ever ends, you have this like hangover like state after you break up, and you don't know who you are, and all your friends are like, do what you love to do, you know, rediscover who you're all about. And you should have never lost that to begin with. Or you find people that are in relationships needing, you know, Saturdays for the boys, like needing alone time away from the relationship, and that's all, you know, that's good. And it's funny like the way they put that, but that was probably not an issue. I take complete ownership. Like with the only long-term relationship I was in, it moved so fast, and I wouldn't say it was codependent, but we spent like the majority of the time together. Like we would have been fine separate, but so I don't know.
And that's fine too, right? It's like, as long as you feel like you're in choice.
There's phases, right?
There's phases.
Like that honeymoon phase.
Yeah. And especially if you're going to be with somebody long term, there are seasons. Like there's times where you know, we're feeling really connected, and there's also times where you probably don't feel as connected as we did in the past. And making that all okay, like there's nothing wrong with that. Especially if you're going to be with someone for like years, you're going to see them evolve. The relationship's going to evolve. Yeah.
So because I'm still on these apps, because I'm just like I'm a little more hopeful, but like I was hopeless. But what are some feelings that we should feel when initially talking to someone?
Well, even kind of, I'm going to answer that question in two parts. Well, I think it's like being yourself on the app, right? So it's not like what is going to get me the most likes, or like how can I seduce somebody into liking the answer to my prompt or my photo, right? Which goes against what a lot of like probably like conventional dating advice is, like change your exterior, look a certain way, seduce this person. We need to make you more desirable. So like the first part is like being yourself on the apps.
Okay,
Like
that's good. Yeah.
be yourself, because the person that you're going to attract is going to complement who you are, and you're going to repel the person that you need to be all like polished and perfect, which can be really frustrating at times because you're probably not getting as many matches as you want to. So it becomes more of a lesson of being comfortable in the discomfort. So being okay with delayed gratification. And to answer your questions, how do you want to feel? I mean, excited. I feel like connection is so rare. And if you feel legitimately excited to connect with this person, that's a good sign. And acknowledging that, like, it feels good to have a crush on somebody. And I would also invite you then to continue having the conversation, letting that unfold instead of like, the feelings of like, oh, I need to like meet this person, or like I need to like, that forcing feeling. But then, choosing to like kind of lean back and just be open to having that conversation or that connection unfold organically. Like you can still do that on the apps. But then I would also check in to see if this person is like consistent. So
or not being themselves.
So I think with like kindness and generosity, in terms of like being generous with your time, your feelings, your emotions, your boundaries, like is this person consistently showing up that way? So alternative would be you instantly connect, you start messaging, and this person asks you out, you go on a date, and then you leave the date and you're like, it went really well, I feel so connected, and then like a couple hours later you don't know where you stand with them and it's just radio silent.
Ghosted.
So it's just
wow.
Or ghosted, or they message you maybe like 3 or 4 days later, and I don't necessarily wouldn't get hung up on the behavior. It's more of the feeling. Like if intuitively, if you feel like something's wrong, something is probably not being said.
Yeah.
So it's also like an invitation to be like, is anything going on? Or like getting more data, if
no
you will.
answer is an answer.
And no answer is an answer, but then also asking for what you want, or also seeing what's going on for that person.
Yeah. Matthew Hussey, again, said, like, after a date, don't ask yourself how you think they felt, but ask yourself how you felt, So instead of, like, trying to continually, like, impress someone, how did you feel about the date? And, that's all we can control is our own internal dialogue, But what are your thoughts on the current space of ghosted and being ghosted?
So I will say that being ghosted is a human thing.
Because we don't want to hurt someone else?
I mean, there's so many different intentions, right? So, like, you don't want to hurt somebody else. Maybe you feel like it's doing more harm if you reject somebody and let them know how you feel. Maybe you don't want to put in that energy to having a difficult conversation. Maybe you don't like having difficult conversations.
I knew about, the issues of ghosting, but I didn't really put it into effect until you, actually.
Oh my gosh, I want to talk about that too. So I just want to say, like, okay, ghosting, I want to create more of a compassionate dating culture, and I think part of that is realizing like everyone's doing the best that they can with the tools that they have, and ghosting is part of it. Just acknowledging that someone may have a difficult time having a conversation, and if you're on the receiving end of ghosting, you can feel solid, in yourself and be like, okay, it's about the other person, it's not about me. But then also when we start to empathize and, create more compassion around that, then we can actually have more conversations around ghosting instead of shaming somebody for ghosting. And then they have the opportunity to be like, oh shit, okay, I ghosted this person, but now I can make a different choice in the future. Again, it's not showing up perfect. Like I'm sure in the past I've unwillingly or like unintentionally ghosted somebody, and even with the apps you get inundated with messages to the point where it's so difficult to like
lucky
have
you, inundated with these messages. Wow.
now I actually put on my profile, I only talk to one romantic attraction or one romantic interest at a time, but I'm realizing that's also different for women than it is for men.
It's a girl's game.
I know. Sorry about that.
Nothing to apologize for. Just the way it is.
But ghosting, it's hard. It's like hard to keep up. So that it could be you're not trying to intentionally hurt someone, or also you're just trying to not feel overwhelmed. So when we start to empathize with other people's experiences, we can make it less about us, and then just realize, okay, everyone's trying in some way.
It all comes back to us being narcissistic.
It's all about me.
All about me. For some, being ghosted can be traumatic.
Yeah.
So what do you have any, advice to kind of reset and just like not let it get to you?
Rejection is redirection.
Oh, okay.
So like when that door closes, another one will open. I know that sounds
But
pretty
not right away.
simplistic.
It might not be right away.
It won't be. Yeah, but it's also so it's realizing that ghosting is not about you. It's about the other person. And whether that be them being afraid of conflict, maybe they don't know what they want. So it's just entertaining the possibilities of why they may have ghosted. So immediately our brain goes into like, I'm undesirable, I'm unlovable, I'm going to be single forever. And so I would see this as an opportunity to really just entertain other possibilities. Like maybe they can't articulate how they're feeling. Maybe they are averse to conflict. Maybe they really do, care about me, but it's too vulnerable to share that. Or maybe they really like me, but they're afraid of getting into a long-term relationship. So like all of these different things. And I say this to not condone their behavior, but just to like empathize with them. And then also create closure for yourself. That's how you can tie up that relationship, because if they've ghosted you, you're likely not going to be able to be in contact with them and have those conversations to then give yourself closure, so then you can heal and then move on to another relationship and, feel like you've healed.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just realizing it's mostly not about you. It's not about you. It's like the other person. And then taking care of yourself and giving yourself the closure that you need by empathizing with them, but then also, entertaining the other wives.
Yeah. With closure can be a little difficult, especially when maybe after long-term relationships have ended, especially, you've been out of the dating game for so long. Let's say like you started dating before the apps even were out there. Your relationship ended and now you have all these apps or whatever, and you just don't know how to navigate. Or you're like, maybe you're emotionally unavailable for a little bit, and it's like there hasn't been any closure. And whether the long-term relationship ended from various reasons, from just not working out, maybe someone doesn't want to settle, or maybe someone passed away. Like I don't know if you've ever had any clients that have come out of a long-term relationship and is like just completely lost in the dating space. Because after a couple, the honeymoon phase, like the excitement kind of settles and normalizes, and you don't have to put on every time. You don't have to continually impress. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe that's the key to like sustaining a long-term relationship. Maybe that's why you weren't in that, you got kicked out of that long-term relationship. But, I don't know. Like, what's your advice on that? Maybe we can start from maintaining that long-term relationship so we don't have to find ourselves in a new one, to be dateable, even if you're in a long-term relationship, to always be dating.
Do you mean how to not get back on the dating field.
Yeah, let's start there. Let's start like how to like. Do you have any clients that are in relationships?
No.
Oh, okay, okay. Would you say no to those?
No. Actually, I spoke to a potential client, and her story was more, I am dating somebody seriously, but I need to figure out whether or not they're my long-term partner. So I need support around that. And I need to understand, or I want to know, I want to explore whether or not this person's going to fit into my life, because she had gone through a divorce and had been in a long-term relationship to the point where she had, closed that chapter in her life, built herself up, and was like, I actually need support because I feel solid on my own, and I don't know how someone else is going to fit into my lifestyle. So haven't been able to work with folks who are, in relationship more on a one-to-one, but I've spoken to a few like in my community. But I can even speak from my personal experience where I was in a 3-year-long relationship, and coming out of that, I just didn't know how to date because I've been a serial monogamist since high school. So the idea of dating just went over my head. It's really funny because I'm a dating coach. And I feel like it really challenged me because I had the mindset of a romantic and a serial monogamist who was like no chill. Like I would match with somebody and then we would meet. And I'm like, okay, we're in a relationship, right?
There's that hope. Like it's just like, here, I found the one.
That led to a lot of disappointment. And so over time, I've really learned again that like you're not going to be for everybody. Everyone's not going to be for you. And dating is more of a journey. And same with relationships. Relationships are a vehicle for self-discovery and growth. And whether you have one long-term relationship that lasts for a lifetime or a handful of ones that are short-term, like you're still learning so much about yourself, and it's really shifting how we define success. So like, what did you learn? Did you make memories with this person? Did you feel safe? Did they feel safe? Like really cherishing the relationship or the date, and then picking up the lessons along the way. So I think to answer your question is just kind of like seeing it more as a journey and iterative process, which allows you to be more at ease with yourself, as opposed to being like, I don't know how to date. I feel like a beginner and I'm going to fail. I need to like fit and force myself into a relationship. Just like another humbling thing is just like being okay, being a beginner.
Yeah.
Being new at something, trying something new, being curious about it. It's going to feel uncomfortable. Like, don't get me wrong. It's going to feel uncomfortable to go back out there and be on a date or go on multiple dates when you really want, something stable, or like you want to build something long lasting. But you're just going on like a series of like first dates and it's not going anywhere. So it can be disappointing. You just get tired of
introducing yourself.
Yeah. But I also think that that's like a really cool thing to notice about like yourself. Like there's something in you, there's a gift in you that's like, I want to build something long term. There's intensity that I bring into a relationship. I'm going to own that. And that's also not going to be for everyone. And because you have that in you, like there is someone out there that's going to complement and match that. And it's just about like being patient and then receiving and then just like being comfortable on your own and knowing that's gonna come your way.
Being patient. It's a good segue into this question. I have a handful of friends, primarily females, that were very, and still are, career focused, career driven, maybe even entrepreneurs. But because they were so focused in school and immediately after school, they kind of missed out on they weren't really focused on dating. And they've been finding it hard to create or find someone to help create a stable relationship. And this goes double for females because they're on a clock, especially if they want kids. And these friends some of them have even given up the notion of having kids. Do you have any advice for them?
So I'm really curious about, what their challenges are, what their specific challenges are, like when they're out in the dating
Like who
world.
they're attracting.
Yeah,
and
who
things
they're
like that.
attracting. Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know who they're attracting. But it's some of them have found love now, but it's, I guess, I don't know. Like we're not, like in your last episode, I come from an Asian background, like the word love wasn't ever. We don't hug. There's no hugs, no kisses, no love yous. A lot of what I know now is through the friends I've had through college and stuff, but we're not taught, most of it. I mean, I wasn't taught how to love, like the Western way to love. Not that my parents don't love me any less. It's just like a different way of showing it. And so I don't know where I was going with that, but it's, how do people, like, I'm lucky to be surrounded by people that kind of showed me the way, but what if you're not as lucky? Where do you go? Where do you go to find love? Where do you learn about love?
Well, I resonate with your experiences too. And we're not even taught how to have interpersonal relationships or how to love or how to date or how to pick a partner in school, which is mind-blowing to me. Like a lot. So in thinking about coaching, part of the work that I want to start doing, as well as like teaching this stuff, teaching like emotional intimacy and interpersonal relationships in schools, because it's so important. Like relationships are
what age? Like high school?
It's the point of life.
Yeah.
I mean, right now I've been able to have the opportunity to work with high schoolers, but I even think as young, as like elementary.
Yeah.
Like, I mean.
Oh, but like, I guess I made that face because I thought we were talking about like relationship, like dating, but it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
No.
It could just
Yeah.
be like how to be a kind and decent, how to have
Sure.
like meta conversations around like our emotions and feelings,
Yeah.
or just like being able to identify what a feeling is in your mind and your body, or creating like mindfulness, separation from the internal scripts and the stories. Like, yeah, being able to have that self-awareness. And then, of course, that lays the foundation for more of like the emotional intimacy, physical intimacy as we get older. But yeah, so we're not taught how to love. And some really helpful resources for me have been the School of Life, which is, there's online resources, there's books, they do therapy. The founder is a philosopher, a writer. His name is Alain de Botton, and he pretty much,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he.
I like his Art of Traveling book.
So obsessed.
Alain de Botton. I found out about him through Tim Ferriss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So basically teaches everything that we should have learned in school. So how to have relationships, how to break up, why is it so hard to break up, how to be in a relationship with an avoidant partner, how to work with different attachment styles. Like all of these things are so important to know because it creates language and a framework around what's happening internally. And so then we can articulate it better. If we don't have that knowledge, that self-awareness, or that language, we're kind of just like left to our own devices. And then that's when we get anxious, or we get frustrated at our partner, or we just avoid relationships altogether because it's scary. Because being in a relationship is a skill. And if we don't have the tools or the knowledge or the experience to have the relationship, we may feel discouraged, not want to have it, avoid that intimacy, or engage in a relationship where we end up like hurting each other. And in saying that's like a totally normal experience because, again, we're not taught how to be in a relationship. Another author that I love and psychotherapist is Esther Perel.
Yeah. Talk about her a lot.
And another psychotherapist that I love.
I heard about her through Tim Ferriss as well.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you already know.
Yeah, I already know. Not all of it, but where does one go to date or to find a date if they refuse to be on the apps?
So I will say that I'm speaking from the perspective of an introvert.
Same. Well, I think you and I can be extroverted introverts.
I'm sorry. I misspoke. I'm
What's up?
speaking from. My mind is jumbled. No, this is.
Aren't you an introvert?
I'm not an introvert.
Didn't you write an article, INFJ woman?
So it's funny because I am an extrovert and I identify as an ENFP for all you folks who are into Myers-Briggs.
Oh.
I'm
Really?
an ENFP, which is actually the best partner for an INFJ. And I've dated INFJs and they're great, which is why I feel like I can write an article about them. So yeah, I wrote 2 articles about how to find love as an INFJ and how to navigate dating disappointments. I'm sorry. So reeling it back in, I am speaking from the perspective of an extrovert, not an introvert. So I go out and I meet people just in the wild. So my strategy, and also like if your community is like really trying to figure out how to meet people in real life, is just like getting really clear on what excites you. So for example, I'm really into bouldering. Like I love climbing. And so I've invested in a membership. I go pretty regularly. And when I'm there, I make an effort to talk to people, not with the intention of like meeting somebody, but just like there's people in this space that have similar values. They like doing similar things. And it's also just like a really fun activity just to like climb and then get to know people. So again, kind of feels like low stakes.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like
So like what?
forced.
Dropping a compliment here and there?
Yeah, I'm smiling at people, like saying hi. It's not like I'm on the app and I'm like, I need to like them and then we need to go on a date tomorrow. It's like, okay, I'm just like here at the gym and I'm really enjoying myself and, you know, going to meetups. So yeah, just do the things that you want to do. If you've always wanted to run a marathon, maybe you join a running group. If you've always wanted to join a rec kickball league, then do that. Or like bread making or like all these different things, but then just like strike up a conversation with somebody, not with the intention of like, is this person the one, but just like being really curious about them as a human. So that really allows for that intimacy. When I say intimacy, I mean emotional intimacy to unfold. And then for introverts, I think that the apps are,
But like you eventually have to meet someone in person.
you can, yeah, I mean, okay, I'm not saying that introverts only need to be on the apps. I think thinking about meeting people in real life and also on the apps, that's for everybody.
Yeah.
And the way to determine the way that you want to meet people is just to figure out how you want to spend your time and how you want to use your energy. Maybe in this season of your life, you're like, I feel like a lot of my energy is going to work or pouring my energy into work. And I still want to, you know, potentially meet somebody in the app. Going on the app is the best fit for me right now. And then maybe at some point, you know, 3 months from now, you're like, I don't feel energized from this. This actually is taking away from my energy. I'm going to challenge myself to meet people in real life for a couple weeks or, you know, whenever that doesn't feel good anymore. So I've been on the apps. I appreciate the apps. There's so many people that I've met that I wouldn't have met in real, like on the day-to-day.
Let's rank them. Let's rank the
rank
apps.
them?
Yeah. I don't think I'm on all of them, but like let's rank them.
Okay. So
Let's do bottom up.
this is so hard. I can do like the pros and cons.
Let's do just 3.
3? Okay, wait, I'm going to talk about all 3 of them and then I'll rank them after.
Sure.
Okay, so I really enjoy Bumble
Okay.
because I feel like I'm the person that gets to initiate and
Yeah,
that's
balls in
also
your court.
allowed. Yeah, like that's not like, oh, she's coming on too strong, which is also another filter.
But like, can't they initiate in any app?
No, not in Bumble. Like you have to.
No. Can't females initiate in any app?
That's true. That's true. But
Yeah.
the way that the platform is designed is like you won't be able to connect unless the woman initiates.
So what is that warding off unwanted dick pics?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've never received. I don't know who people are imagining this, but I mean, I empathize with you all. That's just because it's not my experience doesn't mean that hasn't happened.
Sure.
People have totally sent
or just like
or inappropriate messages
yeah,
like, "What are you?"
right,
Yeah,
right,
I've
right.
gotten that. Like,
Oh,
"What are
okay,
you
okay.
doing tonight?" And I'm like, "I don't know you." So yeah, the Bumble.
Yeah.
I feel more empowered to reach out to somebody. Not to say that you can't do that on other apps because you can, but just the way that it's designed, it's the expectation is put, you know, that the woman's going to reach out. Hinge, I do like Hinge. I feel like people are more genuine on Hinge, and that's because there's prompts. I feel like people put more time and energy into their responses. I've had a lot of luck on Hinge, I will say that. And then OkCupid, I tried that recently, and I really liked how robust your profile can be. Like, you can get real specific, which I find really helpful.
Like, you're not limited to like your work or your education or your location.
Yeah. So like on Hinge and Bumble, you get, I don't know, maybe like 2 or 3 sentences, and then you get like your profile that's like, this is what I do, this is where I went to school, and that's pretty much it. But like OkCupid, you can write like full-on essays. And I love it because people are really honest and transparent because they have that flexibility to go into detail, which I really appreciate, because some people are like, I'm really only looking for a hookup, this is why. Or people are like, I'm really looking for a long-term relationship. These are the things that you can, these are the things that I like. And if you're interested, like, let's meet up. And you can get as like specific as like, I'm looking for a long-term relationship. I'm looking for a short-term relationship. There's like compatibility questions, and then you can answer a set of questions, and then it will compare it to somebody else's questions and then give you a percentage of like, you're like an 88% match and you both want the same things, and it gets detailed with like, would you live with a messy or person that like is like messy, or finances and everything. It's like, these are really cool questions to ask, which is really interesting because I actually have not had success on OkCupid though. The majority of my matches have been on Hinge.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's just like people are open
Hinge,
to the consistent
Bumble,
Hinge. I'd probably say Hinge, OkCupid, and then Bumble.
Not even Tinder.
Which is funny because
it's like the most popular.
I was on Tinder. I actually the last time I was on Tinder, I ended up being in a 3-year-long relationship.
I thought you were gonna say threesome. I'm like, Gabby, oh
no,
my.
a 3-year-long relationship.
That was not where I was going to go.
He said it, not me.
Okay. Yeah, I find myself in a perpetual state of feeling, and just this is on the scale of physical attraction, with any of the apps. I find myself in a perpetual state of not being physically attractive enough for someone that I'm attracted to, but then being more physically attractive than those that are attracted to me. I think that's where the narcissism comes from.
Well, why do you think that is?
Because I'm not getting any dates out of this.
No. I mean, like, why do you feel like you're not attracted to the people that are attracted to you? Wait, did I hear that correctly? Okay.
Yeah, because I'm not. I don't know. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's the way how it's been lately.
What's most what are you attracted to?
And this is just on the scale of physical attraction.
Physical attraction.
I don't know. I mean, it's just that's like an easy, like, kind of, for me, it's like an instant thing. It should be an instant thing for me. But it's not even enough to like want to go on a date with someone.
So I will say that you can't force physical attraction. So if you're not attracted to somebody, don't.
It should be like that. Should be like
them.
The easiest no. It's just like that's the pattern that I've noticed.
I know, like, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't.
Or that feeling that like, oh, there's someone better.
So those are different things. So like,
there's someone more attractive.
I'm also sure that you're considering different. You're not only like basing.
I'm not.
Your decisions on like
in that plane of view, like that's the for now.
Yeah,
like, that's Oh, definitely not. I am not that superficial and shallow. Come on.
That's another thing. Is like people are like, oh, I'm not superficial and shallow, but because you want you want to be physically attracted to your partner. That's allowed. That's okay.
I'm not trying to be friends with you.
Thank you. I already have I already have friends. I don't need more friends. So yeah, physical attraction is important. I will say that there's a spectrum too. So there's people that you're like, okay, I am so attracted to you, hands down, no questions asked. There's people that you're probably like, I'm not attracted to you, and that's okay. And then there's people in the middle that are probably like, I'm curious about you. So I feel like if you're on the apps or even just dating in the wild, and you are maybe just like not like, you know, instantly attracted to somebody like fire, like flames and fire, but instead you're more of kind of like this like warm, like lukewarm kind of curiosity, I would definitely invest and see where that can go, because that has potential versus like, I'm actually not physically attracted to this person versus like, I'm interested, I'm curious about this person to see where it goes.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for the trans community? I feel like I only, from an outside perspective, it seems tough for them. And I don't know I wouldn't know what to say.
In what specific? I totally acknowledge that it is
love.
challenging.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They have to be extra patient than anyone, anyone else.
And so on the dating apps, I'll see folks that are, you know, open about that, and I love that, because like, be yourself. Like, the right person is going to match with you, and I totally hear you with the patience game, and a lot of it is a patience game for, you know, trans folks as well as, you know, for everybody, because, and I'm sure it's more challenging with trans folks because they're maybe not, I don't know, I'm assuming, I don't know, I haven't heard firsthand, but like maybe the volume of like matches is probably lower. And to that I say, that's fine. Like, that's another filter. Like,
yeah, you're right.
Because I think with like apps, we go on apps because we're bored or we want instant gratification or we want some type of company because we're lonely, which is fine. But if we're constantly doing that, it's just a distraction. But then when we realize, like, it's really about getting comfortable with the discomfort. So being okay with delayed gratification and realizing that, like, there's going to be moments, there's going to be seasons where I'm probably going to be alone, and using that time to just continue loving yourself, figuring out what you like, what you don't like in terms of hobbies, or just being your own best partner first kind of thing. I know that can sound like disheartening and disappointing to a lot of people, but in the end, like, you're not going out there and like wasting your time with someone who's not going to be a good fit for you. Like, you're putting in that time and energy to like fill up your own cup, and then you're also going to be able to like give from the overflow. You're going to attract the right person because you're so solid on your own.
That's all I had. Do you have any questions for me?
What does dating look like for you?
You host your own podcast, right? Do you still do that? Isms?
So I do have Isms. I have 2 more episodes, and then I'm actually going to wrap up that project. So that project focuses a lot on intentional living around dating, work, and alcohol. So if you folks are interested in knowing those topics, I do have a podcast. But with the coaching pivot and focusing more on love and dating, Isms will still exist, but I'm going to be launching a new podcast hopefully in the next couple of months that focuses on love and dating.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna be called Being the One. So like being your own best partner first.
Okay. So when you first said being the one, I mean, is it too much pressure to say there's one person out there?
Yeah, so that's like alluding to the fact that like we live in this dating culture where there is the one. We're going to find the one, and the podcast really invites you to shift and realize like you are that one, and then you're also like going to go and date other people and they can be the one for you, but there's also like so many other possibilities. Like there's never the one.
How do you say that to people that get arranged marriages where they didn't even get a choice?
It's just a different time, which is really interesting because people that have been in arranged marriages report higher levels of happiness, and that's probably because of like they don't have to deal with decision fatigue, which is something that we all experience, whether it's like dating fatigue because you're going on so many dates, or even just making decisions on whether or not you want to match or meet with this person or continue the relationship. So a lot of the work that I do too is like getting clear on what you want so that you don't feel that you're inundated with all of these choices. Like decision paralysis is such a thing.
Mm-hmm. Analysis paralysis.
Analysis paralysis.
Cool. Wait, so, and what you had a question for me?
What are you most excited about in terms of dating?
Cultivating the one, I guess.
I love
not really
that.
finding the one, but finding someone who I feel lukewarm at least about, and I'm cultivating that.
Cultivating it because it's building. It's
Yeah.
building that relationship, and that comes from having a solid foundation within yourself first. And then realizing like you don't have to do it alone because we work well when we are in relationship with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Would you be interested in rating my dating profile?
I would.
Okay.
Give me all the things.
Oh shit! All right, let me.
This would be so interesting because I met you in real life.
Yeah.
And so
Before
that's like another
without
thing
the
too,
intention of
right?
dating?
Yeah, without the intention of dating, and like.
There's like no pressure.
But yeah, I also wonder like, there was you've made a great first impression on me. I wonder if that's going to contrast from like a profile, because profiles are one dimensional.
Yeah.
When you think about it, it's like, what do you do? Where did you go to school? Answer these 3 prompts, and here are like a handful of photos. But like when I met you, I got to like actually interact with who you were as a person. So it's like.
So how do we cultivate more low stakes meetups?
That's our future project.
Shit,
We're gonna
right.
host some
Oh.
singles meetups.
Go nuts. It's like screen.
What?
It's screen recording right now, so I'm gonna put this on the gram eventually. So those
My gosh.
those that are listening, this is what Gabby's oh my goshing about.
I love
Please
this so much.
describe what you see for the listeners.
I see your ass.
Oh, does it look peachy?
I was gonna be like, and a great view, but people won't be able to know if I'm
I
talking
know
about your
a
ass
friend-
or the actual like view of the ocean.
A friend recommended I put the peach emoji on top to make it a little more PG, or
just even playful.
playful.
I mean, you can keep it as is. Can I ask how many hearts you get for that photo?
That's the only photo people give me hearts on. They
See?
just damn. So it's the first one.
Teach me something about your passions. That's accurate. That's true. That's true to you. Okay. Ooh, what are you up to when no one's watching? It's a great photo of you. I like your tattoos.
It's almost like you're attracted to me. I'm just
You got your dogs. Okay, you're spiritual. Okay, so this is great. You're yourself. This is like authentically you. Your personality shines through. So that's like another thing is just like being yourself, showing your layers. Like I know that you have dogs now. I know that you like nature. I know that you're like interested in passion projects as well as what other people are doing.
Yeah.
You're funny. You like know how to like have a great time. Post coffee me. Traveled. You went to San Francisco. I want someone who knows
how
what they
many
want.
guys have shirtless pics?
Too many.
Oh.
Everyone loves The Office, and everyone like
Bouldering.
everyone seriously boulders, and then they also talk about their Uber rating. Everyone
Oh, yeah.
boulders, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I used to think was like a special thing. So like, I boulder, you boulder, everyone boulders. I want someone who knows what they want. See, okay, I love these questions. So if you're on the app,
Find Victor.
find Victor.
Damn. What if I'm in real life?
But then also like, yeah, state what you want. That's a huge thing. Like if you know that you want a particular, quality in a partner. So like for me, when I answer this question, I'm like, I want consistent kindness, generosity, warmth, curiosity. So it's like, if you know what you want, don't be afraid to put that out there. I know, when you originally start to put yourself out there, there's that fear of like, oh, if I'm, too bold, or if I ask for too much, people aren't going to match with me. That's a filter. Like, let those people, like, weed those people out. Because if you end up matching with those people that aren't going to, match what you want, then you're going to end up wasting your time. You're going to get like 3 months into that relationship and like you're not yourself. You're pretending to be somebody, or you're this polished version of yourself. Then you end up like wasting time and energy. But like if you're yourself and you're like, this is what I want a long-term relationship, or I really want someone who's like passionate about what they do, that acts as another filter. And putting that on your profile it's great.
Interesting.
Also good to like honor and dignify our needs. Like if you know that you want somebody who like wants, like, knows what they want from their life and their relationship. Like
I see a lot of girls are like, I don't know what I'm doing. I think that's their only thing. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, okay.
Wait, I'm so curious about that too, actually.
I think it sounds like they just got out of a relationship.
That's also allowed to. Like, okay, I appreciate how human that is. Like, it's allowed. You're allowed to say, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. A lot of us don't. That's relatable. I think it's like, okay, what is true to you? Because I've seen people post things about like, I just got out of a breakup and I don't know what I'm doing. I think that's allowed, but you're also going to attract a particular type of person that story or where they're at in their life is going to resonate with them, and they're going to like gravitate towards you. So yeah. So just be mindful of what you put on the profile. And if that feels true to you in that moment, then that's fine, because the relationship that you're going to attract is like probably the relationship that you need to learn the most lessons from. Like, I look back at my relationships around.
So should I not put the booty pic up there?
What do you think that you're going to attract?
I don't know.
Yeah, like my last 3-year-long relationship, it was codependent, and I don't look back at that and regret it. Like, I needed to learn those lessons to get where I'm at today.
Yeah.
And there's so much like love and compassion for him and like myself, and also felt very like tumultuous and like emotionally toxic at times too.
Yeah, we'll end the recording on that guy.
Oh yeah. Oh wait, so I'm really curious about what you see.
In what?
When you're swiping, like what are some trends you see around women? So like I know that you mentioned like, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I want.
A lot of career-driven women.
Dope.
Yeah, it's just like because they might not have the time to like. I just don't. It's weird because I surround myself with a lot of interesting people at work, but I don't want to be that guy that just leans on finding people through work, I guess. I don't know.
Well, can you cultivate a friendship with them first and then just see where it goes?
Yeah, for sure. I don't see why not. With exes, what's your take on creating or having a relationship after a breakup?
It's all contextual.
Because any type of relationship would take some space away from if you were in a current relationship or if you're trying to be in a relationship, you know?
So I would say just do what you need to take care of yourself, and talking to clients and friends and also personal experience, it really does help to have a time where you're not interacting with them. So like Instagram, I'm an advocate of muting or blocking people because it's really hard to see this person existing in the world and also their highlight reel when you're in this like healing phase. And that can just mess with you on a psychological level and just impact your well-being. So take care of yourself. If
you find yourself checking in with them. If
you find yourself checking in with them and you're just constantly looking at their profile, which is also, I mean, it's fine because you're curious, but at the same time, do what's best for you. Take care of your mental state by, creating boundaries. So that's what it is. And what's really interesting about this is in my last short-term relationship, we are both coaches. And so I was so open to being friends. And then I immediately realized that it was not possible to be friends. And I think what needs to exist in any relationship is the ability to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And I felt like there were these conversations where there was walls up and it was guarded. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't connect with him. And I was like, I can't invest in a relationship like this. And we were both at peace. We had months to heal. And we run into each other. So that was like the goal was to be friends because we still see each other. But I think if you're going to cultivate any relationship, it's like, do you feel emotionally safe to be with them? Are they able to be vulnerable? Are they able to tell you what's on their mind? Are you able to have discussions? Otherwise, it's not going to be a real connection. So it's up to you to decipher that and also figure out if you want to put your energy into something that you may not be getting a lot in return.
Yeah.
But again, it's not clear cut because I also have some friends that I've dated, and then some exes that I don't talk to. So again, it's not like black or white. It's just figuring out what feels best for you. What do you need to do to heal? And then what relationships do you want to cultivate?
Cool. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's very contextual. Case by case basis. Thank you, Gabby, for coming on. We're about 15 minutes away from you kicking out of here. So cool. I know the conversation kind of lasted, like I told you, an hour and a half. But what's, quickly, like, what are you excited about 2020 for the rest of 2020? I know your program, Powerfully Self-Partnered, is still open for enrollment. Can you speak a little bit, like, super quickly about what that's all about?
Yeah, so that is a powerful online 8-week course where we get really clear on your emotional and physical attractions to be able to understand like where we're at, where we've been in the past, to then be able to make more empowered decisions moving forward. Because we don't know where we're going unless we understand where we've been. So really getting clear on like who you're attracting, what are you interested in, and then also creating more opportunities for you to practice boundaries, communication, and then also creating. I'm also creating this like this workbook that allows you to like create like a feelings glossary and also just like emotional awareness so that you can pick up on your own internal wisdom and pick up on your own cues so that you don't have to like, aggressively Google all the things or like get bad advice from friends and family. Like you really know what you want and what that feels like in your body to then be able to be more discerning on the dating journey. So helping folks navigating disappointment, dating fatigue, and heartbreak, pretty much. So,
yeah, cool. Yeah. That's exciting. Anything else you're interested in for 2020?
I'm just excited to continue receiving all of the opportunities. Like I'm teaching at this festival in Spencer, Indiana called Breathe Fest. Oh. And it's just like a nature, slacklining, yoga, spiritual, like 4-day long festival, and I'm teaching about emotional intimacy. So I'm really excited about that. The course, just growing the community. I feel like I actually have like a pretty decent relationship to Instagram, and I feel really connected to like the writing and the work. And it's interesting because I feel like writing every single day for Instagram has really planted the seed that eventually I want to write a book. So I'm putting that out there in the universe. But yeah, just events and growing the business, learning more about my own romantic and intimacy stories and blocks. Because I'm in this program with one of my mentors, and I absolutely adore him. His name is Ken Page. So I'm in that program until the end of summer. So I'm already seeing so many shifts around how I relate to myself and how I'm dating. So I'm excited to date and to to keep learning about dating and sharing my process along the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on, Gabby.
Thanks
for playing therapist for a little bit. I think this is like probably the juiciest episode. All right, guys. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Stay curious. Habla aloha.